It's Comedy on 11, the show where I talk about comedy and music. I'm Thom Tran, stand-up comedian, actor, musician. This week we are talking about Happy Gilmore 2, sad news in the world of rock, and gear that I've never owned. And I've owned a lot of gear in my life. But usually I'm in the studio with my friends. We talk comedy, we talk music. Usually it's a comedian friend, sometimes it's a musician friend. But I started producing this new quiz show. And I've just found it to be easier to book guests to come over and talk about the thing they love, the fandoms that they love. And I get to learn about maybe fandoms and stuff that I don't know about. We've recorded 7 episodes. We're going to have probably a couple of dozen in the can before I start releasing them. But this new quiz show venture that I'm doing, it's so much fun. I get to laugh with my friends a lot. And with every podcast that I've ever done, whether it was the one about food, the one about ghosts, the one about nerd stuff, it's so much more difficult to get a variety of guests to come over and talk about the thing I love and just hope that they love it too. Whereas if I have them come over and talk about the thing they love, whether or not I know about it, and we do a quiz show, it's so much fun. In the meantime, I've decided the podcast is gonna be me talking about comedy and music, the things that I love, and talking about gear and the news in comedy and music and stuff that's going on. And I think that's just gonna be a lot easier to do. I want to keep doing this. I know over the course of my podcasting career, I've had probably a dozen podcasts that I've started, and I think the longest one went like 150 episodes. But you know what? I know comedy and I know music and I love them both. And I found, the last, I think, 4 out of 5 episodes I've done by myself, whether it was in my car driving across the country or in the studio catching up after that drive. I can do it. I can do it. I do comedy by myself. I'm on stage talking by myself for 45 minutes to an hour. So I'm pretty sure I can do this as well. And it's going to be as much fun. The format's going to be a little different, but we are still talking comedy and music and some news. So let's start with some news. Let's start with one of the OG musician comedians, Mr. Adam Sandler. If you don't know, the Happy Gilmore 2 movie has just been released. It just came out on Netflix. And I was talking to a friend of mine. And the most upsetting part to me about Happy Gilmore 2 is that Happy Gilmore 1 came out 29 years ago. 29 years ago, Happy Gilmore 1 came out. And when my friend told me that fact, I was like, that can't be right. There's no way that can be correct. Happy Gilmore 1 came out when I was 16 years old. Oh wait, no, that's not right because I'm not 45. I'm actually 46 years old. Happy Gilmore 1 came out 17 years ago. And when my friend told me that, I was like, that can't be right. And then I looked up, and in fact, Happy Gilmore, the original Happy Gilmore, came out in 1997, which means I was just graduating from high school, just joining the Army. Comedy was not even a thing in my head at the time. I was still just a musician. And Happy Gilmore 1, which is legendary. I mean, Adam Sandler, as musical comedians go, is one of the OGs, one of the most successful of us. I was 17 years old when that movie came out. Oh, it hurts my mind to think about. But it came out on Netflix. I'm hearing mixed reviews on this. I'm hearing some reviews. Some people are very disappointed in the movie. Some people are praising how good the movie is. I actually met Shooter McGavin at an event not long ago. I know that's not his real name. I know his real name is Chris. I called him Shooter McGavin because when I did meet him, I was like, oh my God, it's Shooter McGavin. And he is totally down with it. He is totally down with the fact that people know him as Shooter McGavin. People call him Shooter McGavin in real life. Totally fun. Totally awesome experience. So here's what I'm hearing about Adam Sandler's new film, Happy Gilmore 2. Some people are saying it's just a rehash of Happy Gilmore 1, which why not? I heard that there are like 70 cameos in this movie. But the one consistent thing that I keep hearing is that Bad Bunny, the Latino rapper, is awesome in this movie. Everybody says Bad Bunny stole the show. And you know what? I saw him the first time I saw Bad Bunny in a movie, because I don't know Bad Bunny's music. I know of him because he's Bad Bunny. The first time I saw Bad Bunny do anything was in that Brad Pitt movie, Bullet Train, where he played one of the antagonists. He played one of the guys trying to kill Brad Pitt, and he was really good. I was like, I don't know this dude. I know the name. I know he's an entertainer. I don't know the guy, and he was really, really good in Bullet Train. And it wasn't a bit part. It was a pretty big part. There were a handful of antagonists in that movie trying to kill Brad Pitt, and he was really good, which makes me now a little sad because he was supposed to be in the El Muerto movie that Sony was making in the SPUM, the Sony Pictures universe of Marvel movies. It's the Spider-Man Marvel universe that didn't have Spider-Man because Sony doesn't have the rights to do just a Sony Spider-Man movie without Marvel. So they, I'm sure everybody knows or has heard of, the Venom movie, Morbius, Madam Web, these trash movies that Sony put out. They were mostly all awful. I mean, Venom made a ton of money, enough they made 2 sequels, but anyway, Bad Bunny was supposed to be in the El Muerto movie. Last I heard, somebody asked him about it. An interviewer asked him about it while he's on tour doing a press tour. And I think he got really worked up. I think the story I heard was an interviewer asked him about the El Muerto movie, and he got really worked up. And his PR person was like, we can't talk about this. We can't talk about this. And I don't know anything about El Muerto. From what I know, he's a relatively new Spider-Man character that was only in like a handful of appearances. That's what I heard. Like he's only been around for a couple of comic books, and that's it. But if Bad Bunny is as good an actor as I saw him be in Bullet Train, and as I'm hearing that he has been in Happy Gilmore 2, maybe it would have worked out. Maybe that would have been a good flick. I mean, he has his own fan base. He has his own, demographic of people who are going to watch that movie, but who knows? But anyway, back to Happy Gilmore 2. I heard it was an Adam Sandler movie. Sandler has been straddling that line between comedy and major dramas with like Uncut Gems, and apparently he was really good in Uncut Gems. But Happy Gilmore is just like, it's Happy Gilmore 2. So it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet. I've been very busy with going on the road, or getting ready to go on the road, and with this new show, which I will tell you about later. But yeah, Happy Gilmore 2, apparently it's on Netflix. If you've watched it, let me know. I'll probably watch it. Honestly, I have no idea where I'm going to watch it. I just watched Superman, and then one of my buddies, actually the booker at a comedy club, was like, you have to see Superman in Dolby. Dolby sound is the way. So while I'm in San Diego doing some shows, I'm probably going to watch Superman again. Only because I don't have the Netflix login for my laptop, because the Netflix login is my girlfriend's login, and we only really watch it together. So Happy Gilmore 2. I'll check it out when I check it out. It might be one of those, when I have some serious downtime, not doing anything, I'll sit and watch it. But to be quite honest, when do I ever really have downtime? Next story up, super sad news. I was actually going to start with this, but I didn't want to start with really sad news, and I didn't really want to end with really sad news. So I put it in the middle. I'm sure you've heard Ozzy Osbourne, the Prince of Darkness, the Godfather of metal, uh, the Ozman, passed away just last week. Ozzy's been sick for a really long time. I mean, everybody knew it. They did a tribute concert for him. I watched clips from the tribute concert where like Maynard and Wolfgang and a bunch of other cats, played Crazy Train, and Jack Black hosted that. And, watching Ozzy sit in that chair being just praised and having all the love shown to him that he deserves. Just watching how frail he looked made me sad. I understand why the concert tours have been getting canceled. I mean, Ozzy's got 2025. He passed away. He was born in 1948. So he was 77, and a hard 77. That is not an easy life 77. I mean, he's been playing heavy metal since the 60s or 70s. So that's a hard 77. And we had him for 77 years. It's just, the musicians and the rockers of my generation it's sad. I mean, it's like when Eddie died. Eddie Van Halen, when we lost Eddie, when we lost Prince. It's like these legends of music we're losing, which I think is the hard part. It's not just whatever band that had a one-hit wonder or a couple hits during the 80s or 90s or even 2000s. It's legends. Eddie's gone. Prince is gone. Ozzy's gone. And I mean, I think the only comfort I had when I heard of Ozzy's passing was the idea that, and I'm not a super religious person by any stretch of the imagination. Most people know that, but I understand that comforting thought and feeling of Ozzy and Randy Rhoads are back wherever they are together, jamming. That reunion concert. I think one of my buddies was like, imagine the reunion show. So, if that kind of thing brings you comfort, and that's the kind of thing that you think about and it makes you feel better, yeah, Ozzy and Randy are back jamming together with Eddie and Jimi Hendrix and whatever. But I think really the hard thing is that it is these legends of music that are going. But again, it was a hard 77. It's not the 27 Club. He missed the 27 Club by 50 years. And I was certainly sad when I heard of the passing. Obviously, I mean, I grew up with Blizzard of Oz, Ozman Cometh, the Randy Rhoads era stuff, the Jake E. Lee era stuff. Brad Gillis played for Ozzy. I remember the first time I saw Brad Gillis, who played for, still plays for Night Ranger, who I got to open up for a few years ago. When I saw him doing Crazy Train when he was playing with Ozzy, I was like, this is weird. Because it wasn't Randy or Jake E. Lee or even Zakk Wylde. Because I think I didn't find out until after he left the band that he played for him. And then when I opened for Night Ranger a few years ago, they played Crazy Train. I like to think that I put that bug in his ear because I talked with Brad before the show and I was like, man, I loved watching you play Crazy Train. And I'm sure it was probably in the set list before, but yeah, just seeing that was awesome. Brad Gillis playing Crazy Train with Night Ranger, which is a weird sentence to say. But yeah, man, we lost Ozzy. And they say it comes in threes. So who did we lose this? It was Ozzy, Malcolm Jamal Warner from The Cosby Show, and somebody else. I don't remember. I don't remember. But I know there was another celebrity type person that passed in the same time frame as Ozzy and Malcolm Jamal Warner. But yeah, man, Prince of Darkness, rest in rock. You know, what do you say about that? He from the Sabbath days to Blizzard of Oz to everything he's been doing. You know, the Osbournes. He was one of the Godfathers. So Ozzy Osbourne, rest in rock. But like I said, I didn't want to start the show with bad news, and I didn't want to end the news segment with bad news. So I stuck it right in the middle. What we're going to talk about next is how much I love this Close Guitars carbon fiber Grand Cutaway Mini that I got. And I know I talked about it last week. I cannot explain how much I love this guitar. I can't stop telling my friends about it. I told Dean Del Rey about it the other night. We were hanging out backstage between sets, and he was like, "How's that new carbon fiber guitar?" And I was gushing over it as if I was talking about a new love. You know that when you meet a new girl or a guy, whoever you're dating, and you're so smitten with the person and you can't stop talking about them, and you're like, "Oh my God, she's so great. She's sweet, she's funny, she cooks, she's smart, she makes me laugh," all that. I was talking about this guitar the way I was talking about like a girl that I'm totally smitten with. It plays so good. It sounds so great. I turn it on and it's dialed in to the last setting I had, which is usually reverb with just the right amount of delay. Of course, I got to adjust that depending on the venue, but I turn it on and immediately it's like, it sounds so good. And I'm serious when I say this. I have been thinking about which instruments I'm going to sell just so I can get another one. Not because I need another one. Because the thing that I love about the Grand Cutaway Mini is that it is that one guitar that fills all the needs I have for playing live, going on the road, as a comedian. The tone, the sound, the effects, the portability, how easy it is to travel with. The fact that it is carbon fiber means that, yeah, if I come home late from a comedy club and I forget and I'm just tired and I leave it in the trunk, I'm not worried about that. This is a thing I'm thinking about. Like, I'm going to San Diego this weekend. I'm going to I'm headlining the Laugh Factory in San Diego, and it's a 2-hour drive. I'm stopping for dinner with a homie to have a dinner with a homie before I head down to San Diego. So that's like 2 hours. It'll sit in the car while I'm having dinner with my friend, and then another 2-hour drive to San Diego. I'm not, like, at no point am I worried about how it's going to sound, how the weather and the heat are going to affect the wood, because it's carbon fiber. I took it out to the beach the other day. I was at the Comedy and Magic Club, and I took it out, did a little photo shoot on the beach. It's up on my Instagram, but I dug a little hole in the sand, put it in the sand, and it was one of those days at the beach where it was cooler because we're down by the water, the wind's blowing, the weather's not awesome, and at no point did I think, this is a bad idea because I got to take this on stage. I'm going to play this in a minute. It sounded great, and the only reason I'm thinking about getting another one is to have a backup, because you know me, I love my backups. When I buy an instrument and that's the one that I love, I'm gonna get a backup for it. The upside is I got the Grand Cutaway Mini, which is all carbon fiber. They do have a carbon timber version of the guitar, which is a mix of carbon fiber and another alloy, and that looks dope. There's also zero reason I need that. I don't. Zero reason I need to buy that guitar. But I'm thinking of getting one. I'm thinking of getting another one. I just seriously, I'm already putting instruments up for sale on Reverb. I just put up my, what was it? My Ibanez PGM. Let's see if I can pull it up. My Ibanez PGM 10th. Wasn't planning on showing you this, but here you go. My Ibanez PGM 10th anniversary Paul Gilbert signature series, one of only like 150 made. I did list it at kind of a high price, not gonna lie, because part of me it kind of like, I don't really want to sell this guitar, but if someone really really wants it and that's how much they want to pay for it, cool. But also the thing I'm telling people when I'm listing these guitars or any of the instruments that I'm selling is that I love each and every one of these instruments for whatever reason I bought them for. They all have a place and a reason that I bought them. When the fires happened in LA in January and they came very close to my house, I was like, if the house goes and I lose the instruments that don't fit in the car, there were a few that I definitely grabbed and I was like, oh no, I have to take these. But only like 5. Yeah, it would have only been like 5 guitars that would have fit in my car, which means I would have lost almost 3 dozen guitars. A lot of them rare, a lot of them signature custom models. And I was like, if that happens, not only do I lose them, but the world loses them. You know, I've got the PGM 10th. I've got the PGM 90th. I've got my custom Star Trek PGM. You know, that one doesn't probably mean anything to anybody but me, but the idea that not only will I lose these instruments, the world will lose them, I think is what, shocked me and my system into going, all right, I should sell some of these. Because as much as I love being able to pick up a Paul Gilbert or a Zakk Wylde or any number of my acoustics, that's great. But I think when I saw Joe Bonamassa saying, oh no, Nerdville might be in jeopardy, that's when I went, oh, this is a problem. Because if Bonamassa loses his gear, that is a major tragedy. If I lose my gear, that's going to suck for me, but mostly, I've had dudes emailing me and DMing me about selling Sambora guitars, Sambora signatures. Somebody really wants my PGM 90th. And there are a couple guitars that I will not part with, that I'm not even considering parting with, but I was like, I really should sell some of these instruments. And then the carbon fiber Grand Cutaway Mini came into my life. I was like, oh, I need to sell instruments to get more of these. Which sounds so trashy. I get it. But I can see myself not playing another acoustic guitar. Genuinely. If I sold, I have 4 acoustic guitars in here right now that aren't my Grand Mini, that I 5 in here. And I'm like, if I never play any of these again, I'm okay. That's how much I love this guitar. It fits perfectly. The Grand Cutaway Mini for me, and I've said it before, I'm 5'7", 5'8" on a good day wearing jump boots. 160 pounds, not a big dude. This guitar size, it's not a baby Taylor, but it's not a dreadnought. Because I played the Grand Cutaway, the big one, and it was too big for me. Could be fine for you. I don't know how big or how tall you are, but the Grand Cutaway Mini fits me. So I have so rarely played an instrument that felt perfect for me. And also the bolt-on neck, you can see it right in this photo, the bolt-on neck, because it's, it's not a standard acoustic neck, I can hit those higher notes when I want to. And even the neck on this one feels different and better than the Grand Cutaway. And the Grand Cutaway is it's a 25.5-inch scale. This one's a 24 3/4. This just feels better. And I was like, if I never play another one of these acoustic guitars, fine. So I might as well sell them. I'm probably going to sell one of the Paul Gilbert acoustic signature series guitars. And that's only because I have 3 of them. I've got 2 of the marine blue, and I've got the translucent red, the even more rare translucent red. So yeah, I think I'm in the real place of like, I'm going to start selling gear that I don't need. I'm not going to let it go for a steal. I got this Taylor 612 that I haven't, I just looked over and saw 2 more acoustic guitars that I never play. So it's 4, 5, 6, 7 acoustic guitars in this room right now. 5 of them I almost never play, which is a shame because guitars should be played. They should be loved. The thing is, I started playing this carbon fiber Grand Cutaway Mini by Close Guitars, and I haven't put it down. I love this thing. I love playing it. I love the way it sounds. I love the way it feels. I love this guitar. And that's what instruments should do. I've been talking about this for 3 episodes, like ever since I went on the road. When you pick up an instrument and you play it and you touch it and you hear it and you feel it and you get the vibe for it, you should love it. You should love it and never want to put it down, especially when it is a premium instrument, which this one is. I got all the bells and whistles, the specs. I got the pickup system I wanted, all that. They start at, I think, $1,800. And then they go up depending on, if you want this material. I mean, it's like anything. If you can get the base model, then you can get the super jacked up model. But I was sitting on the couch. My girlfriend and I were sitting on the couch, and I'm staring off into nothing. She's like, "What are you thinking about?" And I genuinely was like sitting there thinking about this guitar. I love it. I love the Close Guitars Grand Carbon Cutaway Mini. That's the guitar I'm playing now. That's my jam. And God willing, one day, if Close Guitars is like, "Hey, do you want your own signature Thom Tran Close Guitars Grand Cutaway Mini?" Hell yeah. I already know what I want. I know what I want it to sound like. I know what I want it to look like. I know. And it's going to be a Grand Cut. This I'll tell you right now. It's going to be the Grand Cutaway Mini, which is the one I have right now, just in purple. That's it. Purple with maybe the same carbon fiber neck. Normally, if I had a purple guitar, I'd have like a maple neck on it, but like my Taylor 612. But no. I want this Grand Carbon Fiber Mini, the Carbon Fiber Grand Cutaway Mini by Close. I want it in purple. I want it with the high vibe smart pickup system. Maybe a little flatter neck. Maybe just a hair. Just a hair. Because I remember I reached out to the folks at Close when I returned the Grand Cutaway. And I was like, "Hey, listen, I like this, but the neck's a little big for me. It's a little chunky for me." and then I got the mini. And again, I'm a gentleman of smaller stature. If you're over 6 foot, it might be fine for you. But again, that's why we need music stores. That's why we need places for people to go and play these instruments, feel them, and love them, and touch them, and get your hands on them. And I cannot. Here's the thing: not getting paid. This is not Close Guitars endorsed. This is just Thom talking about how much he loves this instrument. And I'm sure I've talked about that, talked like this about my Ernie Ball Music Man, Eddie Van Halen guitars. I love that. That is the electric guitar that suits me, that fits me the best, that plays the best, that fits my body the best, that sounds the best to me. That's the one that the first one I reach for when I'm playing electric stuff. The Grand Cutaway Mini, the Close carbon fiber Grand Cutaway Mini, is now the guitar that I can't stop playing. It is the one that I pick up. And part of the reason I want to sell sounds so shitty. One of the reasons I need to sell some guitars is I don't have space in my racks. I genuinely I have two racks that are completely full. I got my bass on my single stand over there. I feel bad having these instruments around that I'm not playing. They're just sitting there, and I'm probably gonna keep a couple of the Yamahas around for, different tunings. I play everything half step down because I'm at the age where I can't sing anything if my guitar's tuned to standard. But then, sometimes I gotta learn a song in standard and I don't want to tune it. It's a very first world problem to have. But once again, the Close Carbon Fiber Grand Cutaway Mini is my guitar. It's the one that I'm absolutely in love with. Now, excuse me, I had to take a drink of water because I'm still on this stupid diet. Now, the subject of this week's episode, because I was thinking how am I going to do this? How am I going to do a show where I don't have a guest and I don't have questions? Just talk about the news, talk about the stuff I love, music and comedy. I wanted to have topics to talk about. And maybe some weeks it'll be comedy, some weeks it's going to be about music. This week, this is a topic that I thought about doing. I want to talk about gear that I've never owned. There are pedals and guitars and amps that people swear by. There's gear that it seems like every guitarist owns or has owned at one point. Gear that, it's fundamental to the guitar gear community. And I was sitting around going, there's stuff that I've never owned that it seems like every single one of my friends has owned or played. So that's what I want to do this week. So this week's episode is going to be about gear that I've never owned. And we're going to start with a big one. We're going to start with one that when I told my buddy Chris that I've never owned this piece of gear, he's like, you can't be serious. There's no way. It's like, there's no way you never owned this piece of gear. And it's true. And we'll talk about why I've never owned it. But the first piece of gear in the list of gear that I've never owned, the Ibanez Tube Screamer, of which there are many iterations, many iterations that I have discovered. The original Tube Screamer, I think it was the T808. I want to say it's the T808, came out in 1978 or 79. And people swear up and down by the Tube Screamer overdrive pedal. You can get vintage pedals. I mean, just if you're watching on YouTube, look at this photo from Analog Man that I grabbed. That's 2, 4, 6, 8. That's 24 iterations of the Tube Screamer. An overdrive pedal that came out in the late 70s. You can get vintage pedals for between $400 and $800, and that's just the internet market jacking up prices, because you can get reissues, new reissues that I'm told you can get for like between $100 and $200. Stevie Ray Vaughan made it famous. Kirk Hammett plays it. Gary Moore, Gary Clark Jr., John Mayer, they all swear up and down by the Tube Screamer. Now, why have I never owned a Tube Screamer? This is why I think I've never owned a Tube Screamer. I grew up in the musical shadow of my older brother. So my musical hand-me-downs, to include the bands that I liked, the songs that I liked, the gear that I liked, was passed down from my older brother. We grew up in the 80s, didn't have a lot of money. And, you know, my brother played Boss pedals. I think everybody played Boss pedals in the 80s when I was growing up. You know what I mean? Like, it was, everybody was playing Boss overdrive pedals, distortion pedals, whatever. So my first, pedals were all Boss pedals. And I have always been a super anal retentive person, like long before I was in the Army. Super anal retentive. So Boss effects pedals were always in, the Boss pedal shape. And when you put them on a pedal board, and this is just, it's totally the anal retentive nature in me. You have all the same shape pedals, and you just move them around, mix and match them, but they're all the same. They're all the shape. And that's just my OCD. That's all that is. So I started with Boss pedals. I'm sure I started with a Boss DS1, the distortion, and I probably got an OD1. I think at one point while I was putting this list together, I was like, have I ever owned an OD1? And I was like, or an SD1? I was like, I don't. I had a Boss SD1 written on my list. And then I looked behind me and I was like, oh, there's literally a Boss SD1 Super Drive right there in my studio behind me that I haven't used in however long, because I've been mixing and matching on my pedal board, and I've been playing through amp sims and whatever. So I think the reason I never got into the Tube Screamer was because my OCD wouldn't let me. I think I was such a Boss fan. I fell into the Boss cult of pedals that the idea of throwing a pedal that didn't fit the Boss pedal board freaked me out. I don't know if I'm sure I've played one. I'm sure like I've played a friend's rig and like he had a Tube Screamer on it. Like literally all my friends, every guitarist friend that I have that's, made any kind of career in music owns a Tube Screamer. So I feel like at some point in my 4 decades on this planet, I tried out a friend's rig and they played a Tube Screamer, But probably by then, my ears and my hearing are so wrecked from years of being in the Army and having things explode near my head that everything's just noise to me. There's a ringing in this ear that's been going on since 2003. It just hasn't stopped. So, yeah, I've never owned an Ibanez Tube Screamer. And part of me feels great shame. Part of me feels like I've let my ancestors down, And maybe at some point I'll get one, but I don't play out live with the band anymore. I have, like, literally right behind me right now, I've got a Boss SD1 Super Distortion. I've got Eddie Van Halen Overdrive over there. I just haven't, and I have so much stuff in this studio that I need to make room for, or I need to get rid of to make room for. I don't know if at this point in my life I need I need a tube screamer. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, and I will go buy a tube screamer. I'm probably not going to get a vintage one because I'm not looking to spend $500 to $800 on a pedal that, quite honestly, I'm probably not going to use that much. But maybe I'll go on Reverb and get one. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me why I need a tube screamer, and I will make that happen. So, yeah, never owned an Ibanez tube screamer of any kind. Next on the list of gear that I've never owned, a Vox amp. Made famous by the Beatles. They range in price from like $100 to thousands of dollars. And when I say $100, I mean those smartphone adapter Vox things. Which, do they count? Do they count? I mean, at that point, it's just an interface that goes, that turns your amp or turns your smartphone into an amp. But, they range in price like a Marshall or a PV or a Fender, from a few $100 to thousands of dollars. And I think, when you see this amp, you see that color scheme, that gold with the red stripy diamond pattern down there, it's a Vox. And the sound, the tone of a Vox. It's got that British vibe to it. Like I said, it was made famous by the Beatles. And I think I read something where the Beatles stopped playing it because, when they were playing Vox amps back in the 60s, you hear that story about when they played Yankee Stadium and they couldn't hear themselves because PAs weren't good enough back then. They were like cranking up their amps and all they could hear is women screaming for them. I don't know what that's like. So good for them, I guess. But I think the thing with the Vox amps is that it is so synonymous with that British tone, that wave of British rock and music, like the Beatles, like the Yardbirds. But I wasn't born till the end of the 70s. So by the time I was old enough to understand and appreciate music, arena rock was already the thing. And if it was give me Marshall or give me death. It wasn't until I found out Eddie Van Halen was playing Soldanos that I even knew that there was another kind of amplifier. Like, it was Marshalls. Just Marshall. Marshall's the only amp in my life. And then, as I grew older, I found out, there are, Fender makes amps, Gibson made amps. Then Eddie went and had the 5150 made by PV. And by the time I really understood the difference between amps, Vox was, for me, so synonymous with the 60s and that era of rock that it didn't jive with me. It was not my groove. So I just never bothered, I never bothered buying a Vox. I've always been like a heavy metal guy. I mean, I don't know if you can see it. No, you can't see it in the shop. There's a PV 5150 120 watt head on the cab sitting right behind me right now. So yeah, I've never played a Vox. I don't think I've ever played a Vox. I to be quite honest, I hear them all the time. But I don't even think I've been at a guitar store and played a Vox. So that's item number 2 on my list of gear that I've never bought or owned. Item number 3, a fuzz pedal. fuzz face pedals. They're super famous. Clapton played them. Hendrix played them. Eric Johnson. I'm sure hundreds of players have played them. But fuzz face. It's just a type of distortion. And again, I mean, if you look at the photo, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're looking at the photo, the fuzz face pedal is a very distinctive pedal. That is a very distinctive shaped pedal. And again, just like with the Tube Screamer, I grew up mostly a Boss pedal guy because I was OCD, and then the Army did not help that. Being in the military and my OCD being what it was, that didn't help. Didn't help. So, the idea that there's a round pedal, a circular pedal, how's that going to fit on my pedal board? When, it is a type of distortion, and I already had distortion pedals, and, Eddie Van Halen always said you dime the game now, and then just all the distortion you need. And yes, I understand there are levels of, how much gain and how much distortion you want, and maybe a fuzz pedal will give you what an overdrive pedal doesn't, or what a distortion pedal doesn't. But it was just never my bag. And maybe I'm not sophisticated enough a musician to really understand how much difference there is, but it was just never my thing. I've never owned a fuzz pedal because I've always I've had one very specific tone in my head when I play, and it's usually, a Phase 90 and a flanger and a dimed out Marshall head. That's always been my thing. Item number 4 on my list of gear that I've never owned, a Gibson SG, which, definitive rock guitar played by everybody from Angus Young, Tony Iommi, Samantha Fish, Eric Clapton played it in his pre-Les Paul, pre-Strat days. It is a definitive rock guitar. I mean, Angus Young is still playing these. They range from, just like any instrument. You can get one for a few $100s, and you can get one for thousands of dollars. As a matter of fact, I think I was on Reverb. Let me find this Reverb listing. I was looking for photos today. Yeah, look at this insane thing. There's a 1968 Gibson SG Custom Pelham Blue Factory Bigsby left-handed, one of 2 ever made. I think it was a Jimi Hendrix version with original hardshell case, $395,000. Of course, that is, not the most expensive. That's probably that's an example of a super expensive Gibson SG. But let's take a look. Some of these other SG models. There's a Jimmy Page. No, that's a Les Paul. This is a Jimmy Page. What is this? No, that's a Les Paul. Here's an SG. Standard 63 SG, $65,000. Of course, these I have this set to highest to lowest. But yeah, you can pay upwards of tens of thousands of dollars. And at the same time, if you want, a 2013 SG, $800, $700. Yeah, they're not unaffordable. They're a pretty good price guitar. Why am I not an SG person? Why am I not an SG person? I love AC/DC growing up. I love Clapton growing up. Why am I not an SG person? I don't know, to be quite honest with you. I'm going to say this next statement. Do not crucify me. I've never been a Gibson person. Again, only because I'm 5'7", 5'8", on a good day, wearing jump boots. I'm 155 pounds today. I keep this. Ugh. It was a struggle picking this up. I keep this Zakk Wylde Les Paul in my house, in my studio, next to me, because every once in a while I get a wild hair up my ass and I go, I want a really nice Les Paul. I'm gonna go spend some money on a really nice Les Paul. And then I pick this up and I put a strap on it and I stand up for 3 minutes and I go, oh, my back can't take this. I'm an old paratrooper, and my back, quite frankly, can't hang. So I've never really been a Gibson person, only because they don't fit me. You know, like I was saying, like with my close guitars, carbon fiber Grand Cutaway Mini, it fits me. Physically, it fits me. It fits my style. It fits my playing. I mean, now, of course, I'm doing guitar comedy, but it fits me. That guitar fits me perfectly. Gibsons have never fit me. I understand how iconic the instrument is. It's just never fit me. So I've never owned an SG. I know I've bought several Les Pauls across my career, and every time I play it for a little while and I go, this is not my vibe. And I've just never bought an SG, never felt the need to want or have one. Just not in my bag. So yeah, never bought an SG. And the last item on my list of gear that I've never owned, and I'm only bringing this one up because I'm seeing it a lot on social media. And maybe it's because I clicked on a video one time and the algorithm went, oh, you want to know more about this pedal? It is the Boss RT2 Rotary Ensemble that I'm seeing a lot of on YouTube and like social media stuff right now. And to be quite honest, I've never even seen this pedal. And I was like, what does this do with the woo-woo lights? Actually, I saw the woo-woo lights, and the first thing I thought was that Eddie Murphy skit from, God, I just said skit. Oh, as a comedian, I want to punch myself in the nuts right now. Eddie Murphy had a bit about going to San Francisco and homosexuals not being happy with him. And he said, they don't even have sirens on the police cars. It's just one. I'm not going to use the word that he said, but he said there's one gay guy on the top just going, woo, woo, woo. And that's what I thought. So bad. That's when I thought when I saw this Rotary Ensemble Boss RT2 with the light and spinning. I was like, what is that? What does that do? And I guess the best explanation I saw about what this pedal does was it was a video on Instagram, and it was just a guy. He's just standing around spinning, like going woo 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 woo, doing that. And I think if I leave the microphone, it'll sound the same. It goes woo 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 woo, and it's just that. It's that. It makes the tone sound like it's spinning, and you're like the Doppler effect almost. So yeah, I was just like, okay, cool. I listened to a bunch of videos of people playing it, and I was like, all right, cool, excellent. But yeah, never owned a Rotary Ensemble Boss RT2. They range in like $250. I watched the videos and I'm like, hey, I don't think I need this, but whatever. Anyway, that's it. That's my list of gear that I've never owned. What about you? What gear have you never owned? What and why? What pedals or what guitars or what amps have you never bought? And why not? Let me know in the comments below. That's the show. I think this is what I'm going to do. This is the format I'm going to stick with, unless I have a guest. I'll do some news, I'll talk comedy, I'll talk music, I'll talk gear, and then I'll tell you about my comedy dates. Let's see, this is coming out today. Actually, I'm recording this now and dropping it today. So this is a little late. This episode's a little late. But I'm going to be in San Diego this weekend. I'm doing the Laugh Factory in San Diego the 31st through August 3rd. 4 shows. The show on the 31st is actually going to be a fundraiser. I decided I wanted to use that particular show as a fundraiser. I'm donating all of my ticket proceeds to KPBS and the GI Film Festival down there. Public Broadcasting has had their budget slashed. So, yeah, I want to do something. The folks at KPBS are friends of mine, and they're having a tough time. So if I can do anything, I'll tell some jokes, raise some money, give them the ticket proceeds. Yeah, so that's this weekend. I'm going to be in San Diego, and then the Burbank Comedy Festival, August 9th. I'm headlining a show there. I can finally officially say this. I'm going to be doing the Next Wave comedy show at the Blue Whale Comedy Festival in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's a lot. August 16th, I'll be there. In September, I will be at the Field Museum in Chicago doing a benefit show for Farm to Veteran, opening for David Spade. Then I'm going to be in Atlanta for the Military Influencer Conference. I do believe we're doing a comedy night that week. I don't know what I'm doing. I think I'm on the show. I might be hosting it. I don't know yet. They're working it out. I know that I'll be there. I was voluntold that I have to be there. So one way or another, I'll be in Atlanta for the Military Influencer Conference, probably doing comedy night. And then, Buffalo, New York with Brad Williams, UB Center for the Arts, and then the Merced Theater and the Lancaster Performing Arts Theater in November for some Veterans Day events. So that's it. That's the show this week. This was fun. I liked this. Talk news, talk gear, gush about the new guitar that I have that I love so much. So thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Remember to hit like, subscribe, all that fun jazz. Tell your friends about the show. Come out and see me live. Go to my website, ThomTran.com for all the tour dates. And make sure you turn the laughs up to 11.